Reddit, I had a shitty summer, the kind of summer that makes you question what you're doing with your life, why you love the things you love, and how crummy the world can really be. While it did not all start with the below story, this is a huge part of why my summer was shit, and it's something I still feel uncomfortable about. It's long and I'm sorry. Thanks for reading. I began working at a summer camp several years ago. I had history as a camper at this camp and I loved that place. By the time I was 19, I had done what I never imagined I'd do and became the camp's one and only medic. As medic, I no longer hang out with counselors and other younger staff as much. If I had free time, I spent it helping out in the kitchen. This year there was a big turnover in staff. Our longtime cook moved on from camp and no one was hired over the year as replacement, so come summertime we were scrambling to find someone to cover that position. I met two of the interviewees. One, a middle-aged woman who, in my humble opinion, seemed like the perfect get-it-done kind of person you need as a cook. And the other, a tall bald man, mid-40s, with piercings galore and a loud look-at-me personality. The woman I fancied was not chosen. I think my boss was upset by her surprise when she saw how small our kitchen was, 2 ovens to feed 150 people, and the camp was introduced to our new cook, Chef Vincent. Everyone loved Chef Vincent. Except for me. The instant I met him I got chills down my spine. You know when you hear a strange sound in the dark and your body is screaming at you to run or hide or something? That's how I felt every second I was in the meal hall or the kitchen. Soon, the places that had been like a second home to me were feeling less comfortable and more get me the fuck outta here creepy. Chef Vincent was abrasive. My first time talking to him, he said something like, "That's your medic?" in response to my color-dyed hair. He tried to be fancy but his meals were dull and soggy. After watching him prepare one, I stopped eating them altogether. I don't think the man had gone to school in his life, let alone taken a food safety course. I survived off an occasional bite of safe food on the table, like packaged crackers, bread, things he hadn't handled directly, and a storage of cheap meal replacement drinks in my room. It sucked. I am an extremely protective person, especially of my younger coworkers, who were basically family. Chef Vincent's kitchen staff were 16 or 17-year-olds and I was afraid for them. I watched from outside the kitchen and talked to them, discreetly making sure everything was okay. Honestly, at this point I was worried that I was being unfair since everyone else loved him. Maybe I was the creep? But I couldn't get over the comments he made and the way he talked to me. He would touch my shoulder and stand all tall and leaning over me when he talked, and he told me about his kids and how they have to stay with their grandma now and about as many years of experience, which I always suspected were due to being a prison cook or something like that. He was extremely arrogant. "It's not my fault I'm better than the old cook, I just am." I wanted to punch him, to be honest, but eventually I just stopped going in the kitchen and even stayed away from the mess hall unless others were in there with me. If he tried to talk to me, which he did, often, at night on the deck, I ignored him and left the room. But I still thought I was being a bitch, to be honest. Then Chef Vincent told one of the kitchen staff to really molest that in reference to stirring a pot of whatever. One member of kitchen staff came to me crying about how much he was pushing them in the kitchen. Soon all 3 kitchen staff were describing incidents of complete disrespect, his refusal to learn their names, use of inappropriate words, and calling them as little girls and the boy John, Jack, Jehovah, whatever. This pushed me until I told the boss about how uncomfortable he made me. I didn't bring the kitchen staff into it, since I advised them to tell the boss on their own. Then one day, a fellow staff member came up and said that Chef Vincent said I won't stop following him and that I should be dating him. Confused and angry, I followed up with another staff member, who said the chef was talking about the camp dog. We don't share a name. Still concerned, I continued with my day when Chef Vincent came to me and told me this story, laughing with a hand on my shoulder the whole time. I said, "You must really like me." Ha. He also made veiled sexual innuendos constantly. Oh yeah, I like things hot, and complimented me, like, more than is appropriate. I got chills every time. Fuck off, fuck off, fuck off. This has been going on for a week. In the second week, I'm asleep in the medic's cabin. It's got a bedroom separated from the rest of the office by an unlockable door, and I'm the only one who stays there. My nights are long, lots of sick campers and whatnot. This particular night, it's 4 a.m. and I've finally gotten to bed after being up for an hour with a sick kid. I'm exhausted and I'm asleep the second my head hits the pillow. 2 hours later, I'm awakened by loud thumping on my door. Usually staff use the walkie-talkie to contact me, even at night, so I'm pretty concerned and I crawl out of bed and head to the door. It's Chef Vincent. I hesitate, not wanting to open the door for him, so he hammers on it again. He looks angry. I am angry. It's 6 a.m., what does he want? Finally I open the door, just a crack, and look out. He's loud, I have to do laundry. My office houses the washer and dryer for the camp because I do laundry when kids wet the beds, so every morning laundry is reserved and staff need to ask me to use it. This particular week, we'd had water problems and the laundry couldn't be done, so I had a lineup of camper things needing to be washed. And here he was, 6 a.m., demanding he use the wash. When I pointed out the water issues and how camper stuff comes first, he got aggressive and yanked the door open. He's big and intimidating and I stepped backward to avoid him and he looked at me and said, "I'm the important one here." I went cold. It was 6 a.m. I had just been told by a creature from the depths that I, who had worked at the camp for 5 years, was unimportant compared to him. It's hard to convey body language secondhand, but he was aggressive to the degree that I flew past my usual response to this kind of situation, anger, and went straight to fearing for my safety. I can be an anxious person, but I don't get genuinely frightened by a lot, other than horror movies, so what scared me more was how scared I was, hair on end, adrenaline pumping scared. His gaze was absolutely predatory. There was nothing about his presence that made me think he saw me as more than something to be toyed with. At this point my mouth was opening and I knew I'd say something I'd regret saying, especially locked in this building alone with the one man who creeped the shit out of me from the second I met him, so I forced out one word, "Okay," and backed away to my room. He watched me the whole time. Got to my room and the tears pushed behind my eyes, but I'm too tired for them to actually come. I am tired of this frustration, of this anger, of this fear. I'd warned my boss about him, Boss was always saying to listen to your gut, and I was, but did they do anything about it? No. I pushed a chair against the doorknob, not knowing if it actually works to lock doors like it does in movies, and curled up on my bed. I told my boss the following morning and they called it inappropriate and said it wouldn't happen again, but that was all I heard of it. For the next week I lived in constant anxiety, which meant picking a lot and hiding in my room. When he talked to me, he had a smile that would make even the most daft of people pause for concern. While before this I had attempted to be polite, I always left from then on. That week, or was it the next? It all blurs together at this point. All of staff were upstairs, save for a few staff monitoring kids in their cabins. I was called over by a fellow upper-level staff member who informed me that Chef Vincent was fired. His police check, which they didn't decide to do until after he was hired, came back. He didn't pass his vulnerable sector check, also known as he was not allowed to work with, or volunteer with, kids in any capacity due to prior crimes that I'll let you mull over. Camp was effectively on lockdown while he was to vacate the premises. I lost it then. The tears came and wouldn't stop and I couldn't breathe. My whole body went fuzzy and I was led out of the building by another upper-level staff member, where I managed to garble out something along the lines of, "He made me so anxious and no one else saw it. I'm just so relieved." The panic attack lasted for a solid 30 minutes. When I saw him exit the building with his belongings, I hid in my office. When I came out, he was gone. They kept it all under wraps. They didn't tell the kids the cook had gone, didn't tell the parents just in case something had happened. My boss didn't even tell the board of directors. It was a huge liability. Still is. And while I'm glad that my anxieties about this man were completely justified, I am filled with anger over the fact that he was hired without a criminal record check and the fact that my feelings were repeatedly dismissed. Camp went from being the only place in this world where I felt completely safe and comfortable to a strange place where I felt like I was living a nightmare. I felt inadequate and constantly upset. It's funny how having your fears ignored can make you feel like there is something wrong with you. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and I quit on account of my mental health so I could see a professional more often. I still have fears about that man finding me, which I feel is irrational because he never actually abused me or anything, just made me shit myself with anxiety and was incredibly aggressive and over-sexual. My parents joke about it being a Cape Fear kind of situation, and laughing about it makes it feel better, but only for a little bit. I don't think they realize just how terrified I was. Still am. So, creepy chef with a criminal record and predatory eyes who decided to spend his summer working at a kids' camp, let's not meet again. Please, subscribe.